the right button but forgot to unclick it. Okay, back to the beginning. Today's content, we'll have a look at the head parts, ISCA and Cobra, and your demanded metering, single lever cartridges, your mechanical flush valves, electronic products, as well as your geyser valves. And if you can remember from some of the previous training, we had the 1 Rand, 2 Rand, 5 Rand method of using to determine the type of head part we can use in the product. The 1 Rand method, once you removed your handle, well, first the industry grub screw handle, then your dome cover or trim cover, and then you can undo the head part provided that you've obviously shut off the water at that specific point. Then you would take a 1 Rand, 2 Rand, 5 Rand coin and put it into the opening of the tap body, and you can determine what type of head part is used in that body. Okay. The first section we'll have a look at is your 50mm light pattern. That will be your 61 variety head parts. The 1 signifies pillar and perp tap options, and the 3 signifies your behind the wall or in the wall or behind the tile type of applications, typically to a stopcock or stop tap that you would have left hand side hot, right hand side cold for your showers or your bath type of applications. The middle section, the 80 range, that is for your 15mm heavy pattern or 20mm light pattern. The only anomaly that we have there is the head part 21, which is a quarter turn type of head part. And if you think in terms of the protractor, 360 degrees, a quarter of that is 90 degrees. So once you've turned this head part 90 degrees, the product, the tap, is fully open. The other aspect you have to take note of in terms of the head part 21, should you wish to change your existing screw down taps to a quarter turn type of option, especially thinking in terms of us getting older, and we may suffer from arthritis or osteoarthritis or difficulty in terms of hand strength to open a normal screw down tap, you can opt for that quarter turn, which will make your life a hell of a lot easier. But you must remember that product, the 15mm heavy pattern or 20mm light pattern product, the body should not have been reseated. As we said before, reseating, you use a specialized tool once you remove the head part, which you insert into the body of the product, and you cut the seating surface ever so slightly deeper to make it smooth and even again. So by doing that, you obviously extend or deepen the actual engagement orifice of that product, that body, and hence the head part 21 will not seal properly once that product has been reseated. Then the last two in this presentation on this slide is your 5 Rand variety, the 90 ranges. Yet again, the one for exposed perp and pillars, and the 3s for your underwall. That 5 Rand variety is your 3/4 inch heavy pattern. Just to make it a bit easier to understand, to split it up, because everything at some stage starts looking similar. So we've just split it up so that you can see the 15mm light patterns. Remember, this is your 1 Rand variety. And we have the 2 Rand variety, which is your 15mm heavies and your 20mm lights, with the anomaly of that head part 21 on the left hand side. And then obviously you have your 3/4 inch heavy pattern or 20mm heavy pattern, which is the 5 Rand variety. Remember the 1s and the 3s, 1 short, 3 long. The 3, what we mean by long is obviously the spindle section, which is highlighted by those 2 red lines there. The top side of that spindle specifically is spline driven. Historically you used to get a square driven, so it means that the top section is not splines. Splines are those little gears. It used to be a square driven or square drive head part. So you do get an adapter to change it from a square drive to a spline. Just remember that you will increase the length of the actual spindle itself and might have, not difficulty, but might have a funny looking tap or a mixer in terms of the handle having to stick out the a little bit further from the body. Alrighty, in terms of your ISCA headparts, remember we said you have your 51s and 53s for the ISCA headparts. The 51s and 53s is basically when Cobra manufacture those headparts. If Cobra manufactures the headparts, we use specific rubber compound in our washers called EPDM. That type of compound of rubber that we use is not a nutrient source for bad bacteria similar to Legionella pneumophila. So in terms of the Legionella, we'll have a lengthy explanation and presentation at some later stage to determine exactly what is Legionella, how can we protect ourselves against it, and so forth. So on the left-hand side, you have your normal standard ISCA headpart. The shorter one, yet again, your pillars and your bibs, and the one on the right-hand side is an extended headpart. If you notice that between those two red lines, the top side or the top part of the headpart looks virtually similar to the one on the left. The only difference is that the shaft where your plunger is attached to is extended. So those will be used in your concealed behind the tile, under tile type of applications. Typically a shower where you have hot on the left and cold on the right, or a bath where there's a separate bath spout. In terms of the ceramic disc cartridges available for ISCA spares, the one on the left-hand side is used in your Vihana shower column set. That cartridge code, if you need to order that cartridge code, is a 2024. Similarly, it is used in your Castoria bath mixer and also your Veritas shower column. The one on the right-hand side looks, functioning is basically the same, but it looks a bit different in terms of the appearance of the other cartridges. It's also a bit transparent and not the beigey, creamy color as the previous one. The one on the right-hand side will be used on your Lucina freestanding bath mixer, as well as indicated by the image associated with it. That cartridge, that specific code is a 2722. Continuing with your ISCA ceramic disc cartridges, that diverter cartridge, as you can see, normally a diverter, the body is built into the wall behind the tiles, and as you can see by the images, that is the only thing you as a user will see and will have to activate or actuate in order to get your desired mix of water. So yet again, you can see that the spindle section is longer in order to bring the activation out of the wall so that you can attach your faceplate and you can attach your handles and so forth. That specific ceramic disc cartridge, diverter cartridge, is used in your Vihana concealed bath shower diverter mixer, as well as your Veritas concealed bath shower diverter mixer. Product code for that cartridge is a 2026. Ladies and gents, if you need copies of the slides in terms of what the exact cartridge codes are and so forth, please just drop us a mail and we will gladly copy it and put it on a Word doc and then send it off to you. It will obviously include the images as well, so that you can make the association hopefully a bit easier. Okay. Then we go over to the Vana freestanding bath mixer. As you can see, that cartridge has got the locating pins also at the bottom, those two blue little protrusions. That basically just helps you to locate the correct positioning of the cartridge once you've opened the mixer to install it. That cartridge product code is a 2088, and it is specific to the Vana freestanding bath mixer. Then a Type A 35mm ISCA cartridge. As you can see at the bottom of the cartridge, it is flat. That's why we call it a 35mm flat base cartridge. This cartridge is specifically used in your Bordeaux and your Garda light ranges. The cartridge code is a 9831. If you think in terms of the 35mm that we've mentioned and we'll continue mentioning 35, 40, and so forth. The 35 millimeter, if you measure the cartridge physically, the diameter, you will measure 35 millimeters or 40 millimeters or 28 or whatever the case might be. That is the actual size of the cartridge. So the 35 millimeters is really the physical size. So if you don't know what type of cartridge you have, once you've removed it, physically measure it, physically have a look at it. If it is flat like this, then you are halfway there. Then you at least know it's a 35 millimeter flat base cartridge. The Rolls-Royce of cartridges in the ISCA world is your 35 millimeter duplex ceramic disc cartridge. That is the image portrayed on the left-hand side. That is specifically used in your Bordeaux basin mixer only. And that cartridge code is a 9824. The one on the right-hand side is for the Castoria single lever mixers. As you can see, it looks like a bit of a short, stubby type of cartridge, but the functioning is exactly the same, and it is used, as mentioned, in all the ISCA Castoria products. If you want reference in terms of the product code of that specific cartridge, that code will be a 9827. Then, if we have a look at your Varna freestanding bath mixer, that cartridge that is used there is the 35 millimeter high flow cartridge. Product code 9828. The image of the product is just to the right of the actual cartridge. As you can see on the cartridge, it is also a flat based type of cartridge. Then ISCA also features a 40 millimeter cartridge. As we said, you physically measure it and you get to 40 millimeters. And as you can once again see, that cartridge is flat, so it is a flat base 40 millimeter ceramic disc cartridge. This is used on all your ISCA Chloe ranges, and the product code or the space code for that cartridge is a 9841. Then you have your Type B, normal 40 millimeter cartridge. This cartridge, as you can see at the bottom, if you compare it to the one on the right hand side, it is the same diameter, the 40 millimeters. It also has the square spindle at the top, both of them. It's also blue or red or grey. The color of the cartridge does not really matter. But the one on the left is a raised base cartridge. As you can see, it is physically longer than your flat base cartridge, and you would also notice that it is used in different products for the raised base. The one on the left hand side is used in all your ISCA Veritas products, and that code is an EX7000. And the one on the right hand side, the 40 millimeter flat base, is used in your ISCA Chloe ranges, and that cartridge is a 9841. Okay. We've briefly touched on the cartridges and head parts and so forth available from ISCA, specifically to ISCA. As you can see, ISCA also offers a full range of spares in terms of indices. If you don't know what an indice is, an indice indicates or indicator, it indicates the hot or the cold of a product, especially your screw down taps and mixers. And you've got your aerators, you've got your flexiosers, you've got your handles, you've got your aerators, your mounting kits, as you can see on the left hand side, your back nuts and so forth. There's a whole range or variety of ISCA spares available for their products as well. It's normally easier because you already sit with your product or with the product in your house to actually have a look at the handle, maybe take a picture, send it to the people in your service department or phone them. It's always good to have an image or take the handle off and take it to your nearest plumbing supplier with the actual sample of the product, and then you can obviously show them, because not all of us know exactly that that is a wide sweep edge connector or that is a long shank flexio. So once you've removed it, it's easier to take it and say, look, listen, can you please help me? I want one of these. So then your plumbing expert or spares expert should be able to identify the product and make life easier by physically just matching the two. Okay. Similarly to the Cobra and the Iskra varieties, Grower also features a massive amount of space, a full range of space available for Grower. I've taken but one sample. If you have a look at the here, that is a single lever basin mixer, the L size, with that specific product code. If you guys need to go to the Grower website, specifically for the Alea, that is the website link that you will be able, or which will enable you to go directly to the Grower website and to this specific product. So once you're in the Grower website with your product code, or if you've only known your product range name, like Alea Brilliant, and so forth, you type it in, it takes you to the actual product. And underneath the product, if we go to the next slide, underneath the product you'll see there's tabs or buttons where you can download your technical catalog or space or CAD drawings and so forth. If you click on the space, it will give you what is called an exploded drawing. That drawing on the left-hand side with numbers associated to whatever it is on that exploded drawing. Those numbers is linked to the column on the right-hand side, which explains to you what exactly is number 3. It is a retaining ring, for instance, with that product code. So that is also your space code number, and you can place your spare accordingly. A lot of people will not necessarily go as far as stripping a cartridge. Actually, please don't. Stripping head part stripping cartridges and ordering a O-ring and so forth. It will normally be a head part complete or a handle and so forth. So if you need a mounting kit or just a flexi hoses and so on, you can have a look at your Grower website or your Grower technical catalog, and you can see what thing have you removed on that tap or mixer that looks more or less the same as the thing on this drawing. And once you've identified the two things to be, for instance, a number 7, you will see, okay, this is actually a connection hose with that product code, and you can order it accordingly. In terms of your garden variety, it is the rough brass taps or your crutch or your garden pip taps. These are normally characterized by it being rough brass, so it is not chrome plated. It does not feature a smooth finish or any type of finish or coating which may be applied on other products. The head part on the left-hand side is your 15mm products, and the one on the right-hand side is your 20mm, your heavy pattern type of products. You will notice that there's a distinct difference between the actual size of the product, the body, as well as the actual head part. But the interesting thing is, historically Cobra used to manufacture the 15mm light pattern type of products and head parts for your garden pip taps, as the image on the left-hand side, to look similar to the one on the right-hand side. It had a nut which you could tighten. So the reason for that being is that it used to have a gland backing. So if it appears that the tap is leaking by squirting out water from that spindle section, it was in actual fact not leaking per se, but merely pushing water through the gland backing and out at the spindle. So if you tighten that nut, it compresses the gland, and bobs your uncle, the apparent leak has stopped. We absolutely aim to please here at the training department, and we've just saved you all 650 Rand for normal plumbing call out. We will come around next week Tuesday, and we have a sort of a spotter's fee of at least 10% that you guys can pay us once you have saved yourself and other people a lot of money by nipping that nut and stopping the leak. Okay, back to serious business. The one on the left-hand side is the way the 15mm looks nowadays. It does not have the nut with a gland backing anymore. It features a double O-ring seal, which is sufficient to make the head part seal properly in the body. The spares associated to your garden variety pip taps is, as is indicated in that little red box, top right hand corner. You can see there's a 15mm heavy pattern. Remember that's your R2 variety. And then you have your 20mm heavy pattern. Remember that's your R5 variety. And your 15mm light. Remember that's your R1 variety. Okay. During previous training, we discussed the actual need and necessity for having a lockable outside tap or device. So the best solution or the easiest solution will be to have a loose key tap. As you can see, it physically has a loose key. So that key is used to activate or actuate the water, and it is housed in that dome cover or bell cover there. That bell cover fastens to the body with an Allen key, and once you remove it, you can actually remove the head part. So if you have any issues with your LK loose key type of tap outside, you can replace the head part itself. Just remember, normally a head part does very well if you service the head part with a Kluber, which is a silicon grade, food grade silicon grease that you just service the head part with. We have got a video that is available to show you how to service a head part, how to replace a tap washer, and so forth. Okay. Your demand taps, as we discussed before, your demand tap does exactly what the name states. You demand the water and it shall give you the water. Until you stop demanding, then it stops giving. The demand head part, the one on the right hand side, top right hand corner, that head part will fit into any 15mm heavy pattern, existing heavy pattern product or body, yet again provided that that body has not been reseated. So you would unscrew your normal head part and screw this in its factory set, but you can change the settings in terms of the flow and so forth on your demand head parts. The little box on the left hand side indicates the type of head part that is used. The B for Bravo, that indicates blue, like in the color. So if you only want cold water coming through, you would obviously use the blue one, and then the R is red. Then you have the bottom one is RB, which is a rough brass one. It's in essence not rough brass as in rough brass, but more towards just normal brass. It is not chrome plated. Not the product, the body itself is not chrome plated, and the head part itself is also not chrome plated. In terms of your metering taps and valves, if you have a look at the sectional image on the left hand side, it looks completely different as opposed to a normal screw down tap or mixer, the body itself I'm referring to. So you cannot buy a metering head part or a metering valve and screw it into any existing screw down type of tap or mixer. This is product specific. You have to buy a metering product complete or a metering body with the head part. So if you have any issues with a metering type of product, remember metering, it gives you a metered amount of water over a specific time cycle. So yet again, factory set, but you can adjust it to give you water for longer and so forth. But yes, you cannot buy this head part and put it into any normal screw down tap and mixer. But if you have issues with your metering taps and valves, you can buy the head part complete. That is the one on the right hand side. Physically remove the other one, install this one, and Bob's your uncle. In terms of the cartridges, Cobra specific cartridges, the cartridge on the left hand side was historically used in the designer ranges of Cobra. The Callisto Leading Edge and Tapman, they have subsequently been discontinued. We also do not have stock of these cartridges, but I'm just going to briefly mention to you, we had, if you have a look at the top section of that cartridge, we had a flow controller and a temperature locking ring. These were also raised base cartridges, as you can see by the protrusions at the bottom of that cartridge. Moving on to the cartridges on the right hand side, the top one and the bottom one. top one flat, bottom one raised. Yet again, you can clearly see the locating pins on any one of these two cartridges. Those locating pins assist you in properly locating the position, the correct position of the cartridge in the body. The F on the cartridge code implies that it's flat based, and the R is obviously raised based. If we have a look at the thermostatic mixers that's available, specifically Cobra ones, yes, Grower also offers thermostatic mixers, but we are not referring to them at this stage. That will be a complete different presentation with a lot more technical advice and technical aspects surrounding it. The cartridge itself, as you can see, the S861, 860, I beg your pardon, used to fit into the AL862 and the SA862. Both those products on the Cobra side have been discontinued. However, they have launched an 862 Medi, which is virtually in essence the same. These products are thermostatically controlled, and they are thermostatically controlling and blending the water temperature, and serves as a safety feature against scalding and anti-freezing. It is very, very useful if you think in terms of hospital, frailty care, psychiatric facilities, and so forth. The replacement cartridge for just on the previous slide for the S-950-1, that is the Grower 46mm cartridge, which is for the old Focuses. The Grower cartridge code is a 46048000. It's a 46mm cartridge, and it is used in the Focus ranges. Okay, just give me 1 second, please.
You need a 35 and a 46 changes. You go 35 minutes.
Maar daai product code is on 46. Then at the end of the day, we'll have a look at your mechanical flush valves, your junior flush valve. Remember, your junior flush valve is the one that requires the pressure. It does not want the volume of water, it wants the pressure. So these will typically be municipal fed or mains fed. Okay. On these mechanical flush valves, there is a whole variety of spares that you can purchase. These spares work in such a manner that you do not have to remove the physical valve. Once the valve is installed, you shut off the water supply to the valve, and then, as you can see, you can only replace the top cover or only the push button or whatever you so choose to do. The only spare that is needed in order to change the functioning or the application of this valve is that elbow on the left-hand side. That elbow will physically turn your valve through 90 degrees to make it suitable for paraplegic installations, but then you need the extension or the paraplegic lever as well. You just simply remove the push button and you screw in that paraplegic lever. In terms of your actual differences between the FJ is your junior valves. Remember, that's the one that needs or requires the pressure and not the volume specifically. If you have a look at the valve facing you, there are absolutely no differences with regards to the appearance of that valve. However, if you open up the valve, you will see that there's this little black thing that you remove. It's a diaphragm. If you have a look at that diaphragm, it will either have the shape as the image at the top or the one at the bottom. If it has the shape of the image at the top, you know it is used in a toilet, and that will subsequently be your toilet valve, typically your FJ2000, the 2000, FJ2, you do a number 2 in a toilet. So FJ 2000 is your toilet valve. And then the reason for those little wings, if you can call it that, the reason for those wings are that it actually provides less friction for the water. So you'll have more water coming through your flush valve and subsequently through your flush pipe. The one below, as you can see, it's a smooth surface, so it provides more friction and more resistance for the water to travel through. So you'll have less water which is needed to flush a urinal. Okay. For those of us that have used or are familiar with this type of drenching showers that were installed initially at the coastal regions, you go to the shower, you pull the chain, and it actually activated and gave you water so that you can rinse yourself off. Because of all the theft and issues resulting in vandalism and so forth with these valves, it has now subsequently been changed that you use the FJ 6000, the image on the right hand side, which is a urinal valve. If you still have these old KM1-100s installed, you physically remove that little horseshoe, as you can see, knock out that pin, remove it, cut it flush, then you remove the push button and you install this captive linkage. That captive linkage is a complete assembly. If you screw it in, it will fit and it will work perfectly because the functioning of the valve is not changed, but merely the activation principle. Okay. Also, you'll notice on this valve that it comes with an adapter. That adapter, the bottom end of that adapter, is 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch accommodates any and all overhead shower. Then if you have a look at the mechanical flush valve, the standard flush valves, these are the big boys. They do not want the pressure, they want the volumes. Typically, these will be used where there's a header tank and not mains fed or municipal pressure. Similar to your FJ, the junior ranges, a lot of spares are available for these flush valves as well. And yet again, you do not physically have to remove the complete valve from the wall. You physically shut off the water supply by this control stop, and then you can remove the top cover or you can remove that lever on the left hand side. Remove that lever, install a paraplegic lever, or whatever you find is wrong with the valve. If you have a look at the bottom, that is your pan connector, which will typically be used on your top entry type of applications and type of pans. So as you can see, there's a full range of spares available for these valves as well. On this valve, you do not need to buy the elbow as for making the FJ ranges into a paraplegic option, because if you have bought this valve and you want to make it into a paraplegic application, simply take it back to your supplier and buy the FM1000, because it's already turned through 90 degrees with a control stop, and that section is telescopic. Okay. But since you have this valve, there's one anomaly on the sanitary wear. If you have a look at your Orchid pans, the actual connection site of the pan for top entries is slightly, I won't say offset, but it's further away from the wall as what the normal WC would be. If you have the FM valve, you will absolutely need to buy this extension piece. Do not worry, the flange actually fits over the extension piece and it still gives you a nice smooth finishing. Okay, so what this does is it physically moves away the valve from the wall, and when you connect it to your Orchid pan, it connects properly so that the flush pipe is perpendicular to the wall and it actually still looks pleasant and not sitting with a flush pipe that's meant to be straight, but now it's sort of not really straight. Okay. In terms of your electronic products, there's with the electronic products, there's yet again a full range of spares available to them. If you have a look at the first spare on the top left-hand corner, that is basically similar to your conventional, not conventional, similar to your single lever mixers. That will be deemed your handle. It is the sensor, so that is the activation or actuating part of your electronic tap, if you think in terms of single lever mixers. The middle one is your solenoid. That solenoid is similar to your ceramic disc cartridge, and that will be the product that actually gives you the water, whether it's blended or whether it's single temperature. And then you have your extension cable or cables on the right hand side. Ladies and gents, it's absolutely crucial that you do not advise anybody and or yourselves to cut these extension cables yourselves. Our extension cables have got a male and a female end, which obviously fits into one another to ensure that you have a leak-free and watertight seal. If you cut these cables, you void your warranty immediately. Buy the extension cables. You're allowed to buy 3 extension cables, which of the C-EL-31, which is 3 meters. You're allowed to buy and use 3 of them, which will give you 9 meters. The actual product itself comes with a 1 meter electrical connection wiring system. So in essence, it will end up being a maximum of 10 meters. If you go further than 10 meters, the electrical impedance in the wires goes down, and you will not have a proper working electronic product. Then, as with all electronics, we do need a power supply. So that massive box at the bottom is your power supply. We have transformers, we have battery options. It used to be a 9-volt battery, but we now currently use 6 times 1.5 penlight batteries. So 6 times 1.5 is yet again 9 volts. Or we have the supercapacitors, which is sort of the Rolls-Royce of power supplies. Supercapacitors is not a new type of technology available in the market. We have just chosen to actually incorporate supercapacitors in areas where we found that they are suitably used for. The remote in the middle is specifically used to adjust the flow and the time and so forth for your electronic soap dispensers, and the remote on the right hand side is for your other electronic type of products. Okay. If we have a look at PCVs, remember PCV is a pressure control valve. It is only Cobra that manufacture these valves in our group of companies. A PCV is there to basically control the pressure from your municipality or mains and bring it in line with the rated pressure of your geyser and other safety valves associated with your geyser. This is your Closey quick flow PCV. The repair kit includes your set pressure and expansion relief valve in one cartridge. Okay, so you do not need to remove the valve from the wall. You physically remove the cartridges, replace the new cartridges. It's factory set, and you are good to go. Okay, as we go along with the PCBs, you will notice that although all of them are PCBs, they look different. The reason for that is they call it historic momentum, because my father's father, his uncle, first used the Closey valve. He knows the Closey valve. He's not going to change to the Masterflow 3s and Masterflow 15s and whatever else is going to be developed. He knows this valve. He's going to use it. Also, in terms of servicing and maintenance, this valve is fitted inline, and it will be the exact measurement. So if, for instance, my father's uncle needs to replace the complete valve, he removes the valve and he will replace it probably with exactly the same valve, because the dimensions are exactly the same. So as you can see, there's a variety of spares available for your Closely Quick Flow PCVs, which you can purchase and have it installed. Okay, this is your Masterflow 1 valve. Yet again, it has an all-encompassing cartridge with your set and your expansion relief valve forming part and parcel of one cartridge. Then we have a look at your Masterflow 2 valve. The Masterflow 2 valve is sort of known as your user-friendly type of valve because you do not need any specialized tools in order to service this valve. As you can see, it's made up of a plastic or polymer, this black thing, if you don't know what I'm referring to. This black thing is your all-encompassing cartridge. So that is the only thing you will replace on this valve. As you can see, the body is still a DZR brass body. The body is that top section. It is in line. Your municipal pressure will come from the one side, and on the body you will see an arrow. So towards it going into your house, just align it properly with that arrow. These cartridges you normally just undo by hand, and you buy your replacement cartridge with specific reference to your rated pressures. Ladies and gents, you must please remember, in terms of your PCV and all your other safety valves associated with geysers, it is not advisable to go and fiddle around with those safety valves by yourselves and think that it would be okay to block it off and it would be okay to do this and that. Rather get a professional to do it, because we're dealing with safety valves, and as the name says, it has to do with your safety and the safe functioning of the product. So if you have this PCV on the left hand side with a red label, that red label is indicative of a 400 kPa rated pressure. This valve will be in line with the rated pressure of your geyser, as well as your TP&S valve, and so forth. Please do not go and buy a black one. As you can see, the labels around the cartridges differ, or a green one, or whatever the case might be. If it's red, buy a red one. And as I said, you can buy the cartridge. So don't let any installer tell you that the body is warped or the body is sagged or whatever the case might be, and they have to replace the new valve. You can buy a brand new cartridge which is factory set at the correct set pressures, operating pressures, as well as the correct expansion pressures encompassed in one cartridge. From my side, as they say in the classics and in Afrikaans, fluit, my story is uit. Thank you very much for your attendance, and thank you for your kind interest, and have a fantastic day and a good week. Take care.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, once again, just apologizing for the confusions today. It was a bad start. We had a bit of a technical problem, and then the misinformation that I gave my colleague, Mr. Henning, here. And I have sent everybody just a little message that 4604800 is then the replacement, the grower cartridge replacement for the S-900-1. So once again, very sorry for that. And if there are no further questions, I think we've answered all the questions as we went along. I thank you very much for your attendance, and we will speak to you again.